Hello, third and fourth graders. So today we are going to actually be looking at the food chain. That's going to be our main focus today. What are our animals actually eating? Because last week you also looked at whose food they are. So we're going to create a food chain. However, we are going to be looking at the Great Kapok tree. We might look at the atlas. We already know where they live, and that is really important because that gives us a good idea of the other animals that are in the food chain, which is the reason why I had you start looking at other animals and then decide which one was going to be the predator of your animal. Again, it's going to be the focus is going to be the food chain, and the words to watch is going to depend on your habitat. It might be the forest, the grassland, the desert, the mountains, the tundra. I'm an aquatic one. In my case, it's the tropics because I'm doing the frog. But before I continue, I need you to think about this question. It says, I researched to learn about a frog or an animal. Is that really the reason why we're doing research with Miss Arias right now? I do want you to learn about the frog and an animal, but do you really think that that is the main reason for doing research in library? Whatever you're thinking, please go tell your mom and dad, do you think that that is the main reason? Okay, so I'm guessing that you are saying no. Because yes, you do want to learn about animals, in this case, the animal that you're choosing, but more importantly, this is the deal of why we do research. So I researched to learn how to find all types of information. So the animal is just providing us something to research. And we're going into different aspects of it so that way you can learn how to create your own questions and how to get a whole big idea, because it's not enough just to say, oh, the frog, leaps, the frog is an amphibian. But by researching, you're starting to learn other things. And the most important thing is that you're learning the skill of researching. And that's what we're doing today. So I'm going to put this down. And I want us to review what we already know. I know we've said this before. They live in water and land. In this case, frogs live in the tropics. And of course, you would be doing your own animal. They live in trees, under leaves, and ponds. And last week we looked at, hold on just for a second there, and I'll put this further up. We looked at what animals live where they live. We said parrot, snake, jaguar. You will have a different animal, so you might, most likely will have different ones. Which of these animals would, your animal eat? Eat your animal? It would be the snake in this case. And then I asked you to describe the habitat. So today we're going to be building on it because the habitat is quite important. So I want you to think, how does the habitat change what your animal eats? Are you thinking about that? Exactly. So I'm imagining that you're saying, well, my animal would eat what's around him, right? He's not going to go order a pizza or a burger because that's not his habitat or her habitat, your animal's habitat. But your animal will have different kinds of plants living in that habitat if it eats plants. Kind of like we said that the frog, when it's a tadpole, do you remember this? The tadpoles breathe, let me get closer. The tadpoles breathe by getting air from water through feathery outside gills. As they swim, they eat very small plants that stick to larger water plants. These tiny plants are called algae. So you're seeing that there. We know that, right? But is that frog going to always eat that? That's when it's in the water environment. But what happens when it goes out into the world? Can you think of what happens to your animal? Does your animal, when it starts growing up, does it just eat one thing? tell your mom or dad what it actually thinks or what it eats. Because we already did its life cycle, right? So you should know that by now. Well, let's say it's a bear. It would be drinking milk. Exactly, milk. But, because it's going to be nursing, right? But is it always going to be drinking milk? What would it go out and eat? Oh, so it might go eat and hunt. Well, what are those things that it would eat and hunt? I'm not going to draw, as of yet, the life cycle, the food chain. I'm not going to draw that yet. I just want you to start finding these things out. So in the case of the frog, for us, the frog, well, we know it eats one, algae, right? Two, what else did it say it lived? Well, let me go find. Let's go back. The tadpoles have become tiny frogs. They climb out of the pond and onto the land. Their tails will become smaller and smaller until they finally disappear. Here I've got it marked. The tiny frogs begin to eat insects and worms. They aren't vegetarians anymore. So we know that they will eat insects. And that they will eat worms. Now, can you turn around and tell your mom and dad what you think your animal will eat? So I'm assuming that if you're saying a bear, you have said that your bear will eat berries. Some of you will say that it will actually hunt for fish, right? They like to eat salmon. What else do you think that they would eat? Honey? I have a feeling that that's what you just said. So you're coming up with your own list. So this week, I want you to come up with a list of different things that your animal will eat. Did it eat the same things when it was growing up? Did they change like the frog did? Those are the questions that you're going to be answering this coming week. And then the following week, we will create our food chain. So with this, I leave you, and please remember, do not repeat what I just put here. I want you to go find your own animal and create your own research. Because again, it is not about what the frog or your animal is eating. It is about the idea of I'm researching so that I can go out into the world and do research when I get older. Because you will need it to buy a house. You will need it to know where you're going to go find a job. You will need it for all these different things. So with this, I leave you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.